Awesome. Hi, I'm so happy to connect with you. I'm not gonna lie, it's like a little bit of a fangirl moment for me right now because I've been
That's
following
awesome.
along your journey for a while. So I was just like, when your PR reached out, I'm like, whoa, okay,
Oh my gosh, that's really cool. So you already knew who I was when they reached out. So
yeah.
basically, like manifested me. And here I
I
am.
was actually gonna say, literally, you were on my list, and when I got it, I'm like, thank you, universe.
That's awesome. Would it help if I put headphones?
I was gonna ask you the same thing. Are you
Yeah,
having?
I'll put some because I feel like it might be echoey without it. Okay, I think that'll be better. Just with Zoom, it usually always works better with headphones.
No, I agree. I'm like, I put them on, take them off, put them back on.
Yeah, you sound better, actually.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so do you. So it actually, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start it again.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Awesome. So happy to have you. I can see
Yeah.
both of your books behind you right
Yes,
now.
here they are. Plus my
Your
tarot
baby.
cards, my blind spot oracle cards. I got all the things up here, my crystal, my plant.
So before we start and you let everyone know who you are, because you're an incredible badass of a woman, if I can just,
Thank you.
so honored to have you here. I will say that I astrologically profile everyone. So if you want to
Ooh,
go
fun.
ahead and let us know what your sun sign, I feel like you would know what your moon and rising are as well.
Yes, those are the only two that I know because I haven't dove super deep into my astrology, but my sun sign is Aquarius. So my birthday is actually, I always say 1 month after Jesus, January 25th. And then my rising is Sagittarius and my moon sign is Cancer, which is interesting because most Aquarians, they say we're very emotionally unattached, super aloof, but I'm like really emotional because my moon is in Cancer, so I'm like a walking paradox, I guess.
That is so awesome. My rising
Yeah.
is in Sag, so I can
Oh,
really pick up on
nice.
that.
What
Yeah.
are your other ones?
So I'm a double Sagittarius with
Oh, cool.
rising and my moon, and then
Mm-hmm.
Gemini sun.
Oh,
So I
nice.
feel like I'm all over the place always.
Yeah, I feel like in high school my best friend was a Gemini, and then I always like love Sagittarius people, so I'm sure we'll get along great.
I was gonna say the same thing about Aquarius. I'm like, you guys, for me, you're such a digestible like sign because you're so you. You don't apologize for it. But I like what you said. It's true. I feel like most Aquarians are very aloof and very detached. So the fact that you do have Cancer, that's kind of interesting.
Yes, it makes my life very interesting.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What brought you into all of this? I know that and this is actually something that really called me into your journey, and I would love if you talk about it a bit more.
Yeah.
You struggled with depression for 3 years, and you were able to kind of get out of that, and now are using that to empower people, which I
Yes.
love.
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, you kind of summarized it, but I'll go into a little more detail. So, my name is Kelsey Aida. For anyone who's new to my world, I usually just call myself an inspirational author and a blogger. Now, I also do coaching, I host retreats. So, there's lots of ways that I help people, but basically, I help people to own their power and win at life. The modalities that I found that really help myself and other people to do that are emotional healing, affirmations, learning how to be a conscious co-creator of your reality and manifesting the life of your dreams, tips and tricks and perspectives for feeling happier, finding relief, and of course, radical self-love. So I just teach people how to feel better, really, with compassion and perspective and insight. And I started on this journey after, well, I mean, we're all on a spiritual journey like our whole life, but I would say my conscious awakening was happening during the depression and after. So the depression, those couple years that you're mentioning, that was kind of like my first dark night of the soul moment. And it was just like a storm of not being able to do the one thing that I really loved, which was dance, because I was having injuries, and then just lacking intimacy and deep connection in my life, like not necessarily in a romantic way, but just with people. Like I wasn't connecting with people. And then also the other piece was like I went on birth control, and hormonally it really messed me up. So all those things combined led to me spiraling down into a really, really deep depression, where I was there for a couple of years. And the way that I got out was I really just realized like, I didn't always used to be depressed. Like I remembered that I was so different before. I just had this like realization like, whoa, I used to be happy. I used to like to do things. I used to like people. And so that was when I realized, well, maybe I'm just sick and it's not actually like who I am. But the same way that you like get sick with a cold, like you're not your cold, you're you, and you have a cold temporarily, but like you always get better from it. The body knows how to heal naturally. So I kind of applied that cold mentality to my depression, and that's when I could start to make real shifts and manifest support and see a therapist, and all these things just lined up to help me climb out of the hole and then some. And that's when I was feeling really empowered and happy, and I was like, everybody needs to know this information. I'm going to be an author. But of course, like nobody knew who I was. So I was like, oh, no one's going to buy my books. So I should probably start a blog first, which is what I did to like build a following. And now the blog has just evolved into everything: a podcast, retreats, coaching, another book, online courses, a lot of stuff.
You're such an inspiration for me.
Oh,
Like,
thank
no,
you.
I'm not just kind of saying that. I've been following your journey, like I mentioned. And one of the biggest things was that you took something that, trying to be mindful of how I say things, but we own so much of these. Like, I am depressed, but you
Right.
never say like, oh, I am a cold, I am the flu. Like
Right.
nobody says that. And that's why I was like, I loved what she just said, but we do put on these like, I am anxiety. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was like, I am bipolar.
Yeah.
And then I was able to realize, no, I am not anxiety, depression, bipolar. I am going through something.
Yeah, you're just having that experience, but
Yeah.
you're just you. That's a separate thing from the feelings.
But we get so caught up on this like ownership of, because then you can play the victim card and you can blame it on this now. Well, it's because I'm depressed. It's because I'm anxious. It's because of this.
Mm-hmm.
But because you have that, you're even more disconnected from yourself, because now instead of saying, well, the reality is I am feeling like this because of something that's going on and I need to get to know myself more, it's this, well, it's because of this, and then I can keep this disconnect instead of actually coming inward. And that was the one thing that I loved about what you were talking about. And on top of that, you didn't go to school for this, because everyone that's talking about it in the I like that you say self-empowerment, not self-development world. It's very, you have this degree and that degree and blah, 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 blah. And I just kept thinking, cool, you went to get a degree for this. What if I don't want to? What if I just want to take my story and make it empowering? Why do I need to get a degree? And it was like the universe was like, look, there's someone that's showing you it can be done. And I found you. And I'm like, oh my God, she's like killing it. She's not letting something so stigmatized ruin her, which is what we do allow it sometimes to do. She's taking kind of this like, all right, this is going to be my crutch and I'm going to get and create a life out of that. And I just thought it was unreal. Like,
Thanks. Well,
dude.
yeah, for me, like I usually don't have imposter syndrome because I know that everything that I've taught, like it works for me. I've done the work. Like everything that I tell people, oh, this is really helpful. Like I've tried it. Or like, oh, this is something that helps with anxiety. Like I've had anxiety. This is something that helps you to feel better. I've felt really bad. So it's like, I know what I'm talking about from experience, which I think is very different than reading a book and then reverberating the information.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like you're still constantly learning from that specific experience, or do you feel like you've surpassed that and now just building on it?
I always have new experiences and new levels of growth. So, in the last couple of years, I haven't really suffered from depression, but I've been really becoming intimately close with my anxiety and learning to understand it and what it's all about and why it's there and what its intentions are. And by improving my relationship with it, it's become way less of a problem for me. So it's not that the anxiety is like, oh, I never have anxiety anymore, because I've practiced being an anxious person since I was tiny. So it's not just going to like go away magically. But now when the anxious thoughts come up, I have so many more tools and perspectives to just handle it with grace and ease instead of letting it like take over and stop me from doing anything.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's amazing. With everything kind of going on right now in 2020, I think we're all experiencing depression, anxiety, insert
Mhm.
every other feeling that people have been kind of coming up with. Do you feel like you've been able to implement everything you learned into this in a different way? Or has it just kind of reiterated, yeah, what I've been doing has been great because look, this has all been happening. I've still been able to keep my foundation not turn into this wobbly.
Yeah, so for me, I would say my foundation is solid, but I still wobble. The difference is I don't wobble for as long as I used to. So instead of getting depressed for 3 years, I'll be depressed for like 3 minutes. So it's like
Yeah.
quantum leap in like the time that it takes me to come back and like self-soothe. And like there's days where I'll be upset for like a day, or I'll be anxious for like an hour, like really intensely. But now that I've really built a solid relationship with my emotions and I can express them in a more safe container within myself, like I don't judge myself as much for having them anymore, I'm able to process them more quickly. So I don't have to suffer through uncomfortable feelings for a long period of time, usually. So honestly, this year for me has been like one of the best years of my life. Like I manifested my soulmate, I moved to a new state, I'm closer to my family now. Like this book was published in perfect timing. Um, I held my first radical self-love retreat in February. Like this year for me personally has been awesome. So I really can't complain. And I think it does have a lot to do with like the inner peace and the foundation that I've created, because now that I have less inner turmoil, I have less outer turmoil. And my circumstances are reflecting back to me my contentment.
Oh, I love that. So I have been following along with you manifesting your soulmate. And I
Yeah.
love that you're totally like, I'm this like fairy and he's this macho man. um, I would love it if you talked more about that. I know
Yeah.
that when you're bringing in someone and you're calling in someone with manifesting, it's not just like, I'm going to manifest this guy and it's going to pop up tomorrow. Oh, look, there he is.
Right.
Because people have
Well,
that.
yeah, first I want to preface this with this is the third relationship that I've consciously manifested.
Okay.
So you don't always get it perfect on your first try. You get what you need. And like my first really long relationship, we were very close to becoming engaged. We were high school sweethearts, and
Oh,
it
wow.
was exactly what I needed for that period of my life. And then the mourning that occurred after we broke up, just because it wasn't compatible and we didn't want the same things after all, it was like no hard feelings or anything, but I was the one who had to break up with him, and it like broke me because I didn't want to hurt someone that I loved. Because it's not like, oh, I hate you now just because we don't want the same things. Like, no, we were like best friends for 10 years and blah, blah, blah. And so that was actually like my second dark night of the soul, I would say, healing from that breakup and from doing the intense emotional work that came with that breakup. I actually started having psychic abilities and mediumship abilities and like a kundalini awakening. And this was all like a catalyst of that breakup. So you get what you need. Things bring you to new places. And like back in that day, I would have been like, oh, this is my soulmate. And he was my soulmate. Like we have more than one soulmate.
Yeah.
And then the last relationship I was in was like a twin flame fiasco where I learned so many lessons about self-love And every way that I was unloving to myself was reflected back to me in my partner, like directly. So it was a mirror that I really couldn't run from. And then the universe luckily put him away. And then I was like, okay, I'm sick of the heartbreak. Like, I'm ready to really meet my person. Like, I want to be with someone who's my equal in these senses, and I want to feel this way around him, and I want us to have this type of fun together. And these are some of the things that we do. And I'm very visual, so I like to visualize like little movies in my mind. And so not too long after I started calling in him, that's when I met Jeff. And he's my partner now, and he used to play football in the NFL, so he's a very large human. And I used to dance ballet, so I'm a very like small, dainty person. And one of my things that I specified was like, I really want to be with someone who I feel like very physically safe with, because I had been with partners in the past who were like similar size as me, but they didn't really own like their masculinity. So I always felt like, well, if anything happens, like, I'm gonna be the one who's like needing to fight off the danger. And no woman wants to feel like that. So I was like, okay, in the next relationship, this is like a request to the universe. Also, I'm requesting that we laugh a lot together. Also, I'm requesting that we can understand each other like to the best of our abilities, and just, I don't know, just things that feel good in relationship. And I would say we have like pretty much all those things. I mean, sometimes we fight and sometimes we misunderstand each other, but that just always leads to more expansion and closeness right after. So I don't really judge as much as I used to.
That's so interesting that you're saying that. I feel like when you're in a place where you're not, when you're in a place where you know yourself so much, you're able to look at all of these things and you're not like, oh, it's more of just like, how can I grow from this? How can this bring us a little bit closer?
Yeah. And like going back to all the quote unquote relationships that didn't work out, even though of course they served like their perfect purpose that they needed to in that moment. Like all those failures give you context for what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So like in that first like soulmate partnership, I was like, okay, this energy really works for me. Like, I love our camaraderie. I love that we talk about these things. I love how much fun we have together. I love that we love each other so much. And then it was like in my next relationship, I was like, oh, I love the passion and the spice, but I do not like the criticism and the judginess and the whatever and the flakiness and the insecurity and the jealousy and all the bad things that came along with it. And just every experience in your life gives you more clarity to really get to the good stuff. So you can't discredit the journey.
And it's really easy. We want it all to kind of feel good and amazing and be this perfect Instagram reel all the time.
The highlight reel.
Literally,
yes.
yeah. And it's not, real life is not like that. I blogged before and now have transitioned into kind of coaching. And I remember when people would send me messages and they're like, how is it that you have your shit together? And I would want to break the phone at that moment. I really stopped thinking that my life is this one Instagram video that I posted today. It's not.
Yeah.
Like we have this kind of connotation that, oh, if you're manifesting, it's all going to be beautiful and peaceful, and that goes within. It's not about the actual things that you're bringing in. It's how you're able to sit with everything.
Well, and when you have a really strong desire, I mean, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better to fine tune the manifestation. So you're asking for the thing, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it right away. That means you might get what's going to prep you to be able to receive the thing. Like going back to my relationship examples, in my last relationship, I became such a better partner because I just learned so many lessons. I learned how to love myself. I learned how to love other people unconditionally. And without that, I wouldn't have been able to receive Jeff like how I can. I wouldn't be able to show up the way that I do to our relationship. Okay. So it's just cool to like look back and see that, even though that was like a horrible time of my life and I hated like most minutes of it because it was such an awful experience. And I was just like, why is this happening to me? I thought we were supposed to be together forever, but he's not even nice to me. And now I don't even trust myself. And what is going on? So yeah, trial and error, folks. Looks good.
I have to say, I love the twin flame stories. They're always the best because it's like anytime that I'm like with a client or I'm listening to a friend, I'm just like, you literally said twin flame. Don't you think that's like the bit of all of this? And they're still like, but why won't it work? And I'm just like,
it says it all in the name.
like,
twin.
again, do you want to go back to, do you remember how you started this? My twin flame.
Right.
So it's always hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny. I did a podcast episode about twin flames versus soulmates that I really thought was a great episode on our podcast called High Vibin' It. So if you guys are like, wait, what's a twin flame? Just go listen to that episode. I'll clarify for you. At least my definition. Because I think different people have different definitions of like, this is a soulmate, this is a twin flame. But if you want to get into semantics, which I did for that hour on the podcast, go check that out.
Definitely will link this on the bottom. I've actually I haven't listened to the podcast. I need to jump on it.
You'll love it.
But that one, I really like the idea of listening to that one because it's been popping up a lot, especially right now with dating, with isolation and lockdown and the pandemic and everything. I have to say, I laugh a lot. I laugh at my own things. I'm just like, oh, really? I was talking to a friend earlier and we were hiking and I'm just like, I just really think I'm going to meet someone hiking in like the next month. And she looks at me and she's like, you're the only person that walks around saying something and it happens a month. And I'm like, no, it's just like the vibe that I'm getting right now is very much that. I'm going to meet someone. They're just going to walk up to me. 10 minutes later, someone walks up and I'm like, this is not my manifestation. This is just someone walking up to me. Stop.
You're like, I got a little confused, but I was right about some parts.
No, I manifested, the first relationship that I manifested consciously was very much my twin flame. And it made me realize how much I had not moved on from my dad wounds. Like they were running so deep, and I thought I had forgiven him and moved on, but it wasn't until I was faced with literally when I was like, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing I did when I was 7. Now I'm just 27 and I didn't realize this. Look at that. And it was this like, it sucked. Like it sucked, just like you were saying. I'm like, it sucks.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Like it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. But now looking back, I think I'm like, I am so grateful for that, because if I wouldn't have experienced that, I would still be in the same place. I would still be grasping and chasing people and being, choose me, instead of I'm me. I don't care if you choose me. I choose me.
Yeah, because that dynamic is really meant to inspire a lot of healing. And do it in a very intense and usually very painful way.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the gentle route of ascension. It's the hardcore roller coaster where you're like, like the whole time.
This is random. Where are you from? Like your family? Where's your family from?
Well, I was born and grew up in California, but if you're asking about like my genetic makeup, I'm like a rainbow child from all the continents. But the most like prevalent DNA that I have is I'm like a third like Native American tribes from Mexico and Guatemala, and then I'm a lot Scandinavian, which is interesting. We got some Egyptian DNA in there, and some Italian, some French, some Spanish, just pretty much everything. There's even like 6% Asian and whatever. It's very interesting.
I was curious because I was picking up the Native American.
Yeah, like, I was noticing that about you too.
It doesn't happen often, but I feel like anytime the person opens up and they're like, oh yeah, I have psychic abilities, it's like my guide, you're like, oh, they already opened the door. We're just going to, and all of a sudden I'm like, is she Native? Because like
I have like so my family is from like Mayan descent, and then also this tribe in Mexico called Zapoteca. Ooh. Mm-hmm. And I think some stuff from Guatemala too, because I think my grandma is like more Guatemalan than she says that she is.
Is that why you pick Mexico for your self-love retreats, or it's just?
That's how it happened because I have family still in Mexico. They
Oh,
don't
okay.
live in Vallarta where we go for the retreat, but they live in
Mhm.
Guadalajara, and everyone who lives in Guadalajara vacations in Vallarta. So
Yeah.
I've been vacationing in Vallarta since I was little, and we actually have a luxury Airbnb property in Vallarta. And when I was staying there once, I was like, there was other people hosting retreats at this house, and I was like, well, I need to host a retreat at this house. What am I doing? So that's when it was born.
That is insane. I have to admit that I think it's really crazy that you had your first one in February, like a month before,
Right before the
literally
chaos.
where everything kind of went, whatever we want to call it. And you're having another one in January, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken,
Yep.
which is so awesome. Dude, congratulations. That has to be like a full circle moment for
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, I'm just excited to go back and do like 2.0, and this time there's even more women and new exercises, and like it's been a year since the last one, so I've learned more stuff to teach. So there's going to be more stuff at the retreat, and then also like the last one was just so fun. I'm like, oh, I already know it's gonna be awesome.
Oh, dude, that's amazing. What kind of brought on this incredible new baby of yours? Because you have
Yes.
Actually I Can.
Yes.
That was your first one.
Hmm. This one. That was
And
the
yeah.
first one. Yeah.
And was this inspired by Actually I Can, or was it born out of just a completely different
I feel like
space?
it was different. It's not coincidence that they're both about affirmations because I'm passionate about self-talk and perspective and affirmations. But actually, the way that this book came to me was the publisher reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're doing this series of books. We want to write a book on affirmations to help people be happier. Like, will you write it?" And I was like, yeah, I'll write it. It sounds like a really easy thing for me to do. And like, I love writing books. So yeah, I'll write it. And so that invitation is what like initially like sparked the book. And then I basically channeled the whole thing like during quarantine because we went in lockdown, and I do hair part-time, and so my salon was closed for like 2 months. And while it was closed, it was still cold where I was living, and I was just at home all the time. So I was like, perfect opportunity to just whip this book out of my back pocket. So I did.
Oh, that's so awesome. Are you still doing hair right now? Like with
Yeah.
everything? Oh,
Hmm.
that's so awesome. Are you guys back and open, or?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
open
that's
right now.
cool.
There's a lot of like mask wearing and sanitizing and extra precautions, but yeah, we're open.
Oh, dude, that's amazing. That's really cool. So just because this is because we're talking about affirmations, and I'm gonna like
Yeah.
dub you the affirmation queen now. This is something I always talk about. You can say the affirmation until you're blue in the face, but if you don't believe it on a subconscious level, it's not gonna do anything. And I really wanted to see what you had to say about that.
Yeah, I'm of the same mentality. So the whole reason why I wrote hashtag actually I can is because there were no affirmation books really teaching people how to use affirmations in an authentic way. Because a lot of people say, oh, affirmations don't work for me. Oh, I tried it. It doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they actually don't work if you don't do them in a way that they either make you feel relief, they make you feel empowered, or they make you feel better somehow. If you say an affirmation and you feel worse about yourself after, that's not the affirmation for you. Or if you say an affirmation and you feel like a liar, that's just going to create a split in your consciousness, and we don't need that either. We need less splits, more mending. So that's why I wrote that book. And then in this book, I was very intentional with creating affirmations that I felt like would bring people towards more happiness in a way that's like gentle and opening and soothing, and not in a way that's like, I'm happy all the time and my life is perfect and I'm the happiest person I know. Like, they're not corny and annoying like that. At least I don't think they are.
No, they're not. You're going to laugh. So I will read a couple right before
Yeah.
bed, but I will, between calls, sometimes they're great and I'm like totally fine. But other times I'm like rushing and I'm like, okay, the fact that you're rushing, you need to slow down. And that's when I like grab your book and I'll sit here and I'll read a couple and really, really marinate with them. So no, I definitely think they're not corny at all. They're very well intentioned, and it's almost like a hug. coming from the
Yeah,
book.
that's
It's
kind
like,
of like the energy that I was trying to convey. So I'm glad that you're like receiving that from it.
yeah, very much. It's like sometimes I was telling my mom yesterday, I've been doing a lot of inner child work the last 2 weeks, and it's, I feel like I'm at this place where I'm like releasing the last of it. I'm just not the last of it. We're never finished.
For
And
this level.
for this level, it's like I'm
Yeah.
getting to this point where I'm like up leveling and I'm letting go of this like last little thing that's been blocking me. And we were talking yesterday and I just started getting like teary, and there wasn't anything. It's just like, I just started to getting teary. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes, this is just release. And she's like, are you sure? And she grabs your book and she's like, let me tell you an affirmation. And I laughed because I'm like, Mom, there's nothing wrong with me.
She's like, you need this.
I'm releasing this. But she's like, no, 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 no. Let me read you an affirmation. And I'm just like, okay.
That's like the best story
At
I've
that
ever heard
moment,
about
I was
my
just like,
books.
oh God, Mom, okay. Maybe you should have the interview with Kelsey tomorrow. She has been like, she'll randomly, she's like, Andrea, do you have an affirmation to share with me? And I'm like, no, why? Have the affirmation book. And I'm like, I have the affirmation book. Like, my mom has been, I think, more excited about this than I have. She's been like, are you prepped for the affirmation book? And I'm like, yes, Mom, I'm prepped for the affirmation book. Prepped for it.
That's
But it was
funny.
just
I feel
hilarious.
like somebody needs to get one in her stocking this year.
I already ordered her one. I was like, she's like, can I have this? I'm like, no, Mom, it's this one's mine. I have one coming from you. How? And I'm like, I bought it, Mom. I bought the book. How did you get that one? And I'm like, the PR company sent it to me. I'm not giving you this copy. But it's like hilarious because she'll literally come over, she'll browse through it, and I'm like, do you want to take the book? No, 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 no. Fine. I'll wait for my copy.
That's
So
great.
she's totally waiting for it. But I just needed to like share that because it was just hilarious. I wasn't
really
in a
funny.
like mental breakdown or anything. It was just like pure on release. And her response was, let me read you an affirmation. And I look at her, I'm like, there's your avoidance coming out. You don't know how to sit with other people's emotions.
Moms do not like when their kids are crying. They will do anything to make it stop.
They will, but I also, she's been like going into her own attachment. And it's funny because the first time that I started really going into attachments, I go to my brother, I'm like, you and Mom are like avoidant to a T. And he's like, yeah, dude, for sure. And probably like an hour later, she was crying about something. And I'm like, look, she's finally embracing her emotions for once. So anytime she'll cry, I'm like, good for you.
Good job.
Going into secure.
Right, I know.
Wow.
So would that make you the one that has anxious tendencies or no?
So I am fearful.
Okay.
My dad was really inconsistent. So he would show up and then not show up, which created a lot of distrust. And I didn't realize how much my mom's inability, which it makes sense. Her mom died when she was 9, so she wasn't given. And then when her mom died, my grandpa didn't know how to deal with it, so he just drank. So she didn't have that. And when I first started talking to her about this, I could tell that she felt like she had done something wrong, and she's a Hispanic mom. So she was like, no. And I'm like, Mom, this isn't anything that you did. You were not given this, so you couldn't know any better. But when we started kind of looking at it, it makes sense. I think anytime, because it was her mom died, she had her youngest sister die in that same car accident. Like, it was a very traumatic moment. And the older sister was just very like, brush it under the rug, like keep going. And that has been her way of like, anytime something happens, like brush your knees, keep going. So I can see why for me, it's hard to sit with my emotions, or even with other people. Like, I have a friend who's been my ultimate mirror in life. And anytime that she gets like, she it's not an overwhelm in the sense like, and this was something I had to like talk to him, like, it's not anything that you're doing. I just I haven't been seeing people sit with other people's emotions. So the fact that you're right now crying, I don't know what to do with that. So I just want to like leave. Literally, I'm just like,
flee the scene.
I'm like, can I go? Am I free? Like, it's one of those things. And I didn't honestly notice how much it was until my best friend, his grandpa got cancer. And when he told me, I patted him on the shoulder. I'm like, there, I'm sorry. And he looks at me and he's like, what? I don't know what I'm supposed, like, I literally looked at him like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. There's nothing I can say that's going to make your grandpa not have cancer. Like, I was just like, I don't know what to say. And he looks at me and he's like, you could give me a hug. You could say, I'm here for you. Like, he was literally like, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. And I'm like, but is that really changing the fact that your grandpa has cancer? And he looks at me and he's like, I love you, but I'm going to tell you something that you need to hear. Mom's inability to sit with other people's emotions is now your inability to sit with other people's emotions. And I was like, oh, what was that? It was this like, oh, wow. But I definitely see it. And when people pull back, that's when my anxiety comes in. I'm like, no, don't leave. Come back. But when they show emotion, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what to do with that goat. Yeah. So I laugh all the time because I can pick up on it now when I'll bring in someone that's anxious and I'm like, you're trying to teach me not to go into my avoidant tendencies right now. Okay, I'll do that. Or someone's avoidant, I'm like, you're trying to teach me not to go. Yeah, okay. I see the game that we're playing. So it's always fun. It's always an interesting role. And
yeah, that's why I made some of the affirmations in the book about like all of my emotions have value, and like if I'm not feeling well, like I need to like process this and then I'll feel better, like type of things, because I didn't want all the affirmations to be directly about happiness, because if you're trying to create your most happy life, you have to face all of your feelings. You can't just be like, okay, I'm only going to be happy and everything else I just suppress and deny. Like that's actually what's going to lead to like you getting cancer. Are you feeling unhappy? Are you having these chronic issues where you're manifesting undesired results? And it's because like you have to process whatever's coming up for you, and then you will naturally come back to your centered state of happiness every time. So it's about coming back and coming back and coming back. And there's nothing wrong with the drift either, because that only gives you more desire to come back.
Which is something I feel like we need to, I've been kind of exploring this. We have this, we're broken kind of connotation right now. And I want to move away from that, because I've realized and if you want to use the broken terminology, it's all you've picked up all these little broken pieces and then you've created a broken shell, if you really want to go with that. But it's more of coming back to yourself and whoever that is, because there's been such a strong disconnect, like you were saying earlier. And I definitely feel like it's not just saying, I'm happy, everything's great. It's being able to sit with, yeah, this sucks. I'm uncomfortable right now. I was saying that to someone the other day. They were like, well, I really don't want to have that conversation. And I'm like, you can have it now, or you can have it in a year. Like, you're going to have the conversation. There's certain things you need to go through. You can't just like skip it because it's not going to feel good. And I do think that there is this like with manifestation that it's all positive and it's always, and it's like, no, you have to go through that dark night of the soul to get to the other side. Like, you have to go through the darkness. And I don't know if this is me reading Women Who Run with Wolves and kind of going away from, why are we so scared of darkness? It's a part of us. And if we can actually embrace it, like you were saying, you were befriending your anxiety. That has been my thing this year. And I've realized that it's just this little girl who's scared, and that's
exactly
it. So anytime like I feel like I'm getting anxious, I'm like, hey, what's going on? And it doesn't mean that I don't, I'm still not feeling that, but it adds a layer of just kind of play. You're not so, oh my God, this serious thing, what's going to happen? It's more of just like, look, this is what's going on, and being able to really own and integrate those feelings instead of bypassing through them and thinking that you're going to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah, because our demons, we think, oh my God, it's this scary monster. But if you actually take the time to be with it, you realize it's usually just a scared little kid, something or someone that's like really a really vulnerable part of you, some part that's not getting its needs met, something that needs love. Like, it's so much less scary once you actually like get real with it.
Definitely.
But it's scary in the beginning, especially if you've never done it before and nobody's like showing you how. You're just like, I'm supposed to know my demons? What? I wouldn't recommend doing it alone. I would say there's people out there like us who can like coach you through it. But yeah, that's definitely one thing that I've realized in like creating your happiest life is you have to have the shadow and the light. You have to have it all in order to feel integrated and whole and complete. You can't just like suppress half of you and expect that you'll be happy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now that you mentioned shadow, I heard something so powerful the other day. For me, something that's a big shadow word that I still need to like, I don't know why I get small over it's that if someone says I'm a bitch, and I'm like, why do I care? And I realized there can be like, someone was telling me the other day, like, you're being so desperate. I'm like, yeah, I totally am. And it was this kind of like, oh, look, it no longer owns me. I'm okay with someone saying that I'm desperate. But it's that lens of wherever you're coming from. Anyone can put a positive and negative spin on anything, like happy. Oh my God, I can't believe you're always happy. And then the other person be like, oh, that's amazing that you're always happy. We can always do that. And it was this like switch, because I noticed that the word bitch has been coming up now when I trigger other people. And I have to come and take it back. And it's like, okay, they're getting triggered by what you're doing. It has nothing to do with you. And being able to kind of embrace that, yeah, I'm a bitch. Okay, then I guess that I have to be a bitch in order to set this boundary or say whatever, or say no, and whatever, and not shaming myself for that, because I feel like there is this layer of the minute that you say no when someone does not agree with what you're doing, then you feel like you need to go back. And you're going to be met with resistance all over the place. And it's being able to kind of play with that and not shift out of what you're doing into a state of going back. I know you do tarot readings. Mm-hmm. Are you still doing them right now?
I mean, I haven't really done any in a while, but yeah, whenever people ask for them, I don't really put it out there that much. So the people who like need me, they just find me. But every once in a while I get that message in my DM like, hey, can you do a reading for me? I'll be like, yeah. I do readings for my one-on-one coaching clients all the time. Okay. So like I incorporate that a lot into our one-on-one practice. So I do a lot of readings, but I haven't done like a lot of just like, oh, someone just comes for a reading. But
is it something that still lights you up a lot, or are you kind of moving more towards different things?
I like it. It's just one modality that I use to help people. It's not like the thing that like makes my life amazing, but I do like it.
I have to admit, I love how Aquarian you are. No, in like the best way.
Everybody says that. Like if I ask people to guess, like after they've hung out with me for like an hour, they'd be like, "You're Aquarius." I'm like, "Dang it! How do they all know?"
What's funny is my North Node is Aquarius, so I'm just like, man, I think that right now the universe is like, take note. This is I care too much about what people think.
It happens to everybody. So
we all kind of go through that. Do you want to talk a little bit about your self-love retreat for people that are listening?
Yeah. So the retreat is 6 days, all inclusive in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And it's a women-only retreat. And the vibe is basically like an extended sleepover meets a yoga retreat meets the best vacation ever. Because we do like lots of healing work, emotional work, journaling, guided meditations, light work, all the things. And then on top of that, it's like we get dressed up to go out to dinner, or we ride ATVs in the mountains, or we go parasailing at the beach. So it's like all the fun in the sun, plus relaxing by the pool, And I'm not strict about like, oh, there's no alcohol. Like, I don't really drink that much alcohol, but some people like it. So for them, that's a self-loving thing to do that day is have a margarita. So treat yourself to a nice margarita, or eat that fresh guacamole, or let's get those fish tacos. Like, this is not a retreat where it's like you can only do yoga and there's no talking and you only eat leaves. Like, it's basically the opposite of that. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of girl time, a lot of connecting, healing, and up leveling, like in the best way.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That is like literally the ultimate sleepover.
Yeah. And like the way that the house is set up, the beds are in like shared rooms. So there's only 4 bedrooms, but they all have like a lot of beds.
Mm-hmm.
So people like stay together, they bunk together. And I think that's something that makes it really cool to experience, is you really get close with the women in a 1-week period, and everyone's there with the same intention on similar journeys. So I think you're able to have more intimacy and connection, even though they're strangers at first, than you would in your normal life. Because like, how often are you talking about your childhood wounds with your friends or like your parents? Or, I mean, you do because that's what you do, but like not everybody gets a chance to. So.
No, I mean, it's not like I've been doing this forever. I literally was telling my mom this yesterday. I'm like, could you imagine us having this conversation a year ago? She's like, never. Like, I know, look at how much I've grown, you've grown, everyone's grown. Yeah. It's always amazing. That is really, really cool that you're creating a space. And I feel like right now, we're needing that more than ever.
Yeah.
We're very much needing connection. So the fact that you're offering that next year at the beginning, that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And some people say it's bad timing because the Rona is still on the loose. And I'm like, honestly, it's the best timing, because I think everybody needs to get out of here or get out of wherever they are and just be in a house that is open air and get sunshine and go to the beach and just have fun and have a release after such a heavy, restrictive year.
I mean, I also like, I laugh when people say that. Where are you right now? You're in the Carolinas, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
Okay. So I'm in Colorado. I don't know how open you guys are. We've been, I want to say, pretty open. And I laugh because some people, and I laugh because this is my own thing of putting other people's emotions. Obviously, I'm always thinking about them instead of just thinking about me. But people are like, well, no, we can't have the restaurants open. And they just put a tent outside. I'm like, this is the exact same thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
From outside. This is just a loophole. But where I will go with it, it's, you're an adult. If you don't want to leave your house, you don't have to.
If you don't feel safe to leave, stay inside. If you want to leave, live your life. Just be courteous of other people. Wash your hands, wear a mask. I mean, I don't think it's that hard. I have not really slowed down my life much at all. And I've been traveling and I've been eating out and I haven't been sick at all. And the other thing that people don't realize is like, oh, they think if I come into contact with it, that means I'm going to get it. And it's like, first of all, that's not how viruses work. You only get sick if you're a vibrational match to that sickness. So that's one thing. And why don't we just focus more on our own personal health and well-being and immunity, building the immunity instead of avoiding the disease? Yeah. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, I said it when I was still working for corporate working when this happened, and it doesn't matter anymore. Nobody knows who I'm talking about, but there was someone that got corona while we were still working, and they couldn't by law let everyone know, because then you're literally setting chaos into our office. But she was a friend of mine, so I knew why she was out of the office. No. And I laughed because everyone was complaining, and I'm like, dude, we've literally been with this person every single day, just breathing the same air. If I didn't get it after she did, I'm not going to get it. Yes, you are. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, that is a story I'm telling myself. I am not going to get it. If you want to believe that you are, that's on you. But I think it's also, at least for me, and with you, it's the same thing. You don't turn something which is a label as depression that someone owns, and you're not basically saying this is a cold. You can't have that type of mentality and then think, oh, COVID is going to kill me. Like, it just doesn't go hand in hand. But I will say that everyone has been telling me, they're like, you live in a different world. And I'm like, no, I don't. I just don't choose to partake in fear-induced things. Like, I got
Well, the thing about 2020 is everybody lives in different worlds. So, like, literally, we're all on the same planet, but everyone's having such different experiences. So, like, your next door neighbor could be a Black person who's a restaurant owner, and you are not a Black person who's not a small business owner, let's say, for example. So their experience is going to be completely different in 2020 than your experience, even though you live right next door. So it's like, we need to, as a society, bridge the gaps of this is their experience and this is my experience through understanding, because that's the only way we're going to make progress forward. And that's just my side note tidbit. But going back to the Corona situation, like, I don't believe I'm at risk because I'm young and I'm healthy, but if I get it, obviously I'm going to stay home. Like, I'm a courteous person. I'm not going to go to the salon. I'm not going to go on my retreat. And I made a backup date for the retreat in case anything weird happened, or if I got sick, or if another lockdown happens where I can't go. But I was just in Mexico like 3 weeks ago and it was great. So I think it'll be fine.
I honestly, this is all I can say. I'm sure that if we talk to someone that was alive when World War II was happening, they would have been having a lot of the same reactions we're having now. I'm not trying to downplay it, but what that Black business owner that was a small business is experiencing now, the reality is he was experiencing that last year. And if we don't want to acknowledge that, that is our own ignorance. He was experiencing racial. He was a small business owner beforehand, competing with chain restaurants. Like, all of those things they were still there. Everyone's talking about Amazon and Target have been making money. Amazon and Target were making money beforehand.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying that they're not. Yeah, they are, but they were making money beforehand. So instead of making it about, I'm only going to support small businesses because it's 2020 and the pandemic, no. Why don't you think you should support small businesses always? Why were you not washing your hands before this? Like, right. It was just one of those things where I genuinely laughed. I got a tattoo. This is how, like, in my own world I got a tattoo. I went to Target to go buy antibacterial soap. And the girl's like, we don't have any. What do you mean you don't have any? And she looks at me like I'm literally stupid. Like, where have you been? Where are you, under a rock? And I'm like, how are you out of soap? And she's like, don't you realize that we're in a pandemic? And I'm like, were people not buying soap beforehand? Like, I don't understand this. So I just, like, I make, my way of doing it is by making kind of light of it. When everyone was toilet paper, I'm like, your biggest fear is that you're gonna die with your, like, do you not have soap and water? Like, I just think of it like that, but these are things that we've been dealing with before. They weren't just now. Just now we can't look elsewhere because everyone's being impacted by it, not just on a small scale. We can't look the other way. And it's not about, shaming someone and being like, oh, you're doing something wrong by doing this. If you need to do that, it makes you feel safe, then you do what you need to make. It makes you feel safe, but it's more of, start questioning things. Don't just take everything like a fact. Like,
yeah, just do what feels empowering for you in that moment. And for me, it feels empowering to host a retreat. For someone, it might not feel empowering to travel at all, and that's fine.
But I think that's amazing. You're giving people a place to connect, a place to escape from kind of the intensity of everything and come together in a like-minded, intentional way. So I think that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and there's 2 beds left. So if anyone's listening, they're like, damn, I want to go. Come.
There you go, guys.
I'll give you the link so she can post it. But it's just KelseyAida.com/retreat. So that's where all the info is.
All right, good to know. You guys are going January, what are the dates again?
15th to 20th.
Okay, perfect. So now you guys know exactly if you want to go. Wait, that's actually, I just have to say this. That's like kind of funny that you're doing it a month after the Sagittarius eclipse. Just needed to say that because
I'm sure it all is happening in perfect divine timing, even though I didn't do that on purpose. So.
Oh, really? Always divine timing. If there's anything that you could tell your younger self, what would you tell them?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would tell my younger self that I will have more clarity and figure more things out later. I would tell my younger self that she doesn't need to worry so much because it all works out really good. I would tell my younger self that it's okay to be vulnerable and be emotional, and that you will learn how to be with your emotions and not feel overwhelmed by them all the time. And I would tell her to just stay cool.
Aquarius, ladies and gentlemen, lunarly. I love it.
I'd be like, stay cool, little girl, stay cool.
No, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Kelsey, thank you so much. It was so great and such an honor to be able to pick your brain and talk to you, just know a little bit more about your story. Is there anything else that you would want anyone to know? And where can they find you? Because that's like...
Yeah, I just want everyone to know that they're doing great, and it's tricky to be a human, so don't beat yourself up if you have a day or a moment or 3 years. And to just get to know yourself better so that you can love yourself more. And you can find me everywhere, Kelsey Aida. So that's my Instagram, my Twitter. It's KelseyAida, like the Italian opera. It's my middle name. Everyone thinks it's my last name. My last name is even more hard to pronounce than that, so I just usually drop it.
I actually wanted to ask you that because I was like, I wonder how she pronounces it.
Yeah, it's Roualdes, like Roualdes.
Dude, I would have butchered that horribly.
Everybody does.
Like, this is my Hispanic. I'm like, Roualdes.
Yeah, that's how Hispanic people say it. But that's actually not like the word. I've heard Roualdes, Roualdes, all of the things. Like, he'll put a Z in there. I'm like, there's no Z. I don't know what they're seeing. But yeah, so Kelsey Aida. KelseyAida.com is my website where you can find my blog. HighVibinit.com is where you can find the podcast. All my courses are online on my website, and then also the retreat. I told you, KelseyAida.com/retreat. And if you are looking for a coach, I'm enlisting new clients for 2021. So that would just be KelseyAida.com/coaching. And yeah, just go there. That's my world where you can find me. And I'm really active on Instagram. Watch my Instagram stories, because when I get good nuggets of wisdom, I always go there first and I post them there. So it
really does. That's where I get all of the stuff that she posts.
Yes.
Guys, definitely check out her book.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and bright. Literally.
It's really cute. They did a great job on the design. I think it's awesome. It's a very unassuming book, because you look at it and you're like, oh, it's so cute. Like, it's going to be nice to read, but like, whatever. It's just another book. And then you like open some of the affirmations. You're just like, whoa.
Literally.
It's simple, but profound. That's the feedback that I've been getting from people. So
it is. Like I said, I feel like you're hugging me from the book. So that's such a big compliment. To be able to see that your voice comes out through, which
that's good.
Like it really does.
Yeah, I want everyone to feel hugged by the book. So buy copies for all of your friends and family for the holidays. It's like a cute little size, so it makes a good gift. My boyfriend's giving everyone a candle and a book, which is really cute. He's like, then they can light the candle and read the book at the same time. I was like, that's a great idea. So if you need gift ideas, candles and books, folks. It's a good one.
Idea. It is a really good one. Well,
yes.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy holidays. Good luck with everything in the next coming months. And I will definitely be continuing to follow you on Instagram and seeing how the retreat goes.
Yeah, thanks for having me and being so awesome. And also, like, look at this like ray of light that's like on your screen.
I have been like literally been. I moved it. I'm like, nope. The angels are here.
It looks
They're
cool.
there. I can
Yeah.
like. I actually feel like you called in someone because I've been feeling like someone's been
Oh
sitting
my
here.
gosh, tell me more. What do they look like?
So I will say I'm still scared of seeing things.
Okay, so what do they feel like or
So
sound
I
like
feel
or
like I
smell like?
have, there's this like really strong woman.
Like an old woman,
She's an old woman and she's like
like a
super
abuelita
wise.
woman.
Yes, it's like
Yeah.
almost like a grandma. She's literally telling me right now, she's like, it's gonna be okay, relax. But she's not my guide. So I feel like she's
She's
yours
probably
or
my
something
guy.
because I'm like, I don't know you, but okay.
I have a guide who's like the little abuelita, like the little abuelita from Coco. That's like the lady who's like my guide.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I
Wait,
don't
she's
know her
laughing
name
right now though.
or that much about her, but she's like that Hispanic like abuelita lady.
Yeah,
She, I
definitely
see,
getting
I've
like,
seen her before
I
a lot of
I'm like, my left ear's always what starts popping and I'm like, oh man, she's laughing.
times.
I laugh because I don't see I admit it, like I'm very much I'm scared to like see them visually. The only times I've seen someone, I was with my friend in Moab and I like look back and I'm like, you've never been there before. And there was this native woman and it was the weirdest but coolest experience ever because I'm just like, how come I haven't seen you before? She's like, you've never wanted to look. And I'm like, what? But it wasn't my guide. It was my friends that I was making the
Mm.
introduction for. And now I can't say anything to my friend because the guide will be like, she's like, stop, you're saying too much. I'm like, okay. Or I'll like literally try to say
Shut up,
something or
shut
like
up, shut
we're
up.
on the phone and I'm about to say something, the phone drops and I'll like see her and she's like, you're saying too much. Well, it was really nice connecting with your abuelita who's here hanging out. I
Yeah,
think she's
she's
going to be
cute.
hanging out with me for the rest of the
She's
afternoon.
she's like a fierce lady. Like I haven't really had any conversations with her, but what I know about her is that she's like feisty and like fierce, but like hilarious and like really cute. And when I saw her, so when I see spirits, I don't actually see them in the room like, oh, Grandpa Joe sitting in the corner.
Okay.
Like, no, I'm not open for that. I just get like a mental image in my mind. So
Okay.
it's like a knowing, like I know what she looks like because I see her in my mind. Like when you remember someone and you see a picture of them in your mind, it's like
You're showing me her right now, which is like really trippy on like so many levels.
that. I feel like she's like a
She's
little
really,
lady who's like kind of like hunchback and like dark
she
wrinkly
is.
skin. And she usually wears like some sort of like poncho or like a wrap
Oh
or
yeah, she
something.
has a great poncho on right now.
Yeah. Okay, well, if she tells you anything else interesting about herself, you let me know.
I will let you know. I'll email you.
I'm
The
very
only thing I'm getting
curious.
right now is fire.
Ooh,
Aries?
fire.
Yeah. I'm getting like fire, Aries. I think she's an Aries. Yeah.
Cool.
Fire, fiery. Wait, she has a message for you.
Oh, yes.
You're on the right path. But it's something you asked earlier. You asked something earlier. You had a question. You're on the right path. Your boyfriend, something you need to ask him.
Okay.
I don't know. You have a question that you've been asking. It has to do with him.
Okay.
She's
I'm gonna
like,
take notes. We'll see if
I'll
it
see.
comes.
She might come back and say something more. I don't know.
Okay.
She's still hanging out here, so I guess she'll be here all day. Yeah. Like, I don't
She's
care.
chilling. She likes
Like,
you.
I allow all the spirits in as long as they're cool. Yeah, come on in.
I mean, you could basically be my cousin, let's be honest. So maybe she's just gonna hop on your spirit team too.
You never know. It's always great. That's the one thing I think people laugh at. It's like I turn off my phone at 7, and when I'm first meeting people, they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have spirit parties after, and I can't have like human
Spirit
interaction."
parties.
And people are like, "What do you mean?" I'm like I like light candles, and I ask the spirits to come in sometimes they just sit there. Other times they interact with me. So like, it's really hard being with spirits and humans. So I just cut humans out of the equation and I stick with the spirits.
Who needs them? Especially when we're in lockdown. It's like easier to connect with grandma.
But my mom will laugh because I'll literally be taking a shower or something and I'll come like, your mom wants me to tell you this. Your sister's been saying this. And she's like, can you please stop having these spirit parties because I don't want to know it all. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's cool that you're so open, because I've had periods of openness, but like right now is not one of them. So that's probably why she's sitting on your couch and not mine.
So for me, and this is a really funny story. I got kicked out of the spiritual closet, like, because I wasn't at all. I thought I was going to be perceived as crazy and all of these things. And when I say kicked out, it was like, I fucking hate you, you assholes, like mad, because I'm at a dinner party and it literally happened this year, which is why I laughed. It happened Cancer season, man, you cancers. And it happened with a Cancer. So I was just like, I'm so out of my element right now. This is not what I want to do. But I'm eating dinner. It was her birthday. And one of her friends, I had met him earlier. And when I went to shake his hand, I was like, your dad's here. And I was in a very like, I don't want to make connection with him. So I just left. But his dad kept like hanging around. When I'm at this dinner party, he's like, hey, thank you so much for letting me know that my dad's around. Like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, damn it. Why did you have to bring this up? His dad comes through, starts talking. Someone else, I guess, starts thinking about their dad. And I'm like, someone else is joining the party. And I hear this other spirit come in and I'm like, it's this other guy's dad. He's super receptive to it. And then everything, like I am shaking like this, that everyone's like, what the hell is going on? Like literally out of a movie. People are trying to like light sage and Palo Santo and they are like making the flame go away. Like, and I was just like, someone's not happy right now. They both left and this woman came through and she hadn't crossed over. I could tell because her pain was just like too strong. And she like completely goes into my body and I'm like reaching for her daughter and her daughter's not having it at all. And I couldn't get her out of my body, could not get her to leave. It was scary, I'm not gonna lie, because I could tell that on a human level, she was not ready to make connection with her mom, or her mom was just like, not at all.
Dang.
Being like, okay, I was like, she does not want to, she's crying, can you please exit? I finally had to get on the floor and put my hands like in the dirt and I was just like, go away, I can't do this, like it's not me, she's not open and you're gonna make it worse for you and her than you're actually making it better. She ended up leaving. And I remember when I left, I was in the car and I was just like, what was that? And my grandma comes through and she's like, well, we've been giving you your gifts. You haven't been taking them. So we're going to kick you. And it happened for like 2 months where I was in like the most vulnerable situations and I would have something like that happen and I couldn't get away from it. So I literally had to just be like, I guess this is where I'm at. And
this is my life now.
This is my life now. So I've been able to own it, but it wasn't like I was like, whoa. It was more like, why?
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, no. So she might be here because of that, because they don't leave me ever.
I just here to kick your butt. I don't really know. I think she's pretty feisty, so.